Hi, welcome back to my channel. Now the title of this video may look a bit controversial, but I'm going to relate to you my story, my history over 5 decades with Slimming World. And when I say in the heading, does Slimming World work for everyone? ? No! ! I'm referring to myself and my experience in group where I've seen a lot of people come and go because it didn't work for them. But I want to talk about my experience and why it works today. So what changed in me, or what changed in the plan, that makes it work today for me in my 60s. So I'm going to take you back to my first experience of Slimming World, which would have been in the mid-70s. I think I was about 20, 21. Why didn't it work for me at that age? Well, it did. I had half a stone to lose, which is the minimum amount of weight you can join Slimming World with to lose. You've got to have 7 pounds to lose. And I didn't have a weight problem per se. I went with my friend who was getting married and she wanted to shed that half a stone. We did it together and it was easy. Because we just changed in the short term what we were eating, the weight came off. And it was nice. We both felt better. She got married. She stayed slimmish because she'd always been slimmish. I put back on probably a stone at that stage because I had gone without things I really liked to get the weight off, even though it was only half a stone. I'd cut out things that I really liked, and of course the minute you get there, well, I've crossed the line. I wasn't at target because as soon as we got there, we just left. We didn't focus so much on getting to target in those days. We got to the weight we wanted to be and we just didn't go anymore. It was at the New Mechanics Institute in Nottingham on Trinity Square. And I'm saying that for Joan's benefit, she may remember that place. So that was in my 20s, my first experience of Slimming World. So let's go forward, fast forward to my 30s. I got married at 30. I got engaged at 29. I had a year to lose some weight from a wedding dress. I've seen this happen so many times. Did I do it? Did I heckers like? I weighed exactly the same within a pound or two when I got married as I did when I got engaged. Because I kept saying, I've got a year. I'll do it when I'm down to 8 months. I've got 8 months. I'll do it when I'm down to 6 months. Because I had more to lose that time, I should have started at 1 year and lost it slowly. But I know, I'll do it at 6 months, I'll do it at 4 months, I can lose it quickly. And it just didn't happen. I tried Slimming World, but I'd got too much to lose in too short a space of time, and so it didn't happen. And again, I was very unwilling to be teachable, and I was very unwilling to have some woman standing at the front telling me what I should do, because I'm like that, I don't like to be told what I should do. And I was very unwilling to give up my bad habits. So, in my 20s, when I was clubbing every weekend, spending most weekends in Liverpool, loving it, singing, dancing, getting drunk, dancing on the pierhead, doing all the things you do in your 20s, drinking a lot, smoking a lot, loving life, I had come to the place that Slimming World is not going to work for me unless I really change, and I don't want to change. So in fact, we're going back into my 30s, I was still a smoker. So what do? I'm trying to follow Slimming World, I'm trying to stick to the plan, but I don't want to give that up. I don't want to stop eating as much bread as I want. I don't want to stop putting Lurpak on my toast. I don't want to, well, I know what I'll do. I just won't have breakfast, so I can't put Lurpak on my toast. I'll have a couple of fags, a couple of Marlboro and a couple of black coffees. That's not on plan. That's not doing Slimming World. That's what I call Operation Starvation. And yes, I could go to group and I could lose a couple of pounds or 3 or 4 pounds some weeks, but I never once did it by food optimizing or even sticking to anything remotely like the plan. I did it by drinking black coffee and smoking Marlboro most of the time. And that, looking back on it, I think, what a bloody idiot you were, Jane. Because I used to get chest infections and I used to feel crap and I had a terrible cough and I wheezed a lot. But I did lose some weight. So by this time I'm married. We have a lovely lifestyle. My husband worked for Boots the chemist. We had a really good job. He wasn't a shop assistant. He worked as a sort of accountant in the office, head office. He had a really good job. We had a really low mortgage because we both sold properties to buy the one we live in now. And we had spare cash. And we liked eating out. And we liked nice holidays. And we liked going to interesting places. And we didn't have restriction because there was just the two of us. We both had good jobs. I worked in insurance for the Prudential. He worked for Boots, as I say. We had no restrictions on us. We were living the high life. And we ate out in restaurants that were beyond my wildest dreams. I grew up in a council house until I was nearly a teenager. I grew up with a dad with a very ordinary job and a mum who was a stay-at-home mum for most of my childhood. We never had spare cash. I don't ever remember going out for a meal with my mum and dad before I was married and we would take them out. We lived the high life. We used to meet Rich's parents every other weekend at an expensive restaurant somewhere in Yorkshire. And some of them were, wow, I'd never been to places like that. So believe me, stick a good menu in front of me. I'm going to pick the biggest thing on the menu, the most luxurious thing on the menu, and I don't give a toss what it cost. I didn't back in my 30s. And it didn't matter, because my mortgage back then was a fifth of what my council tax is today. It was a different world back then. So consequently, I gained weight. Then I decided I wanted a baby. I was obese at that point. I think you'd call me obese at that point. I had 2 miscarriages within a year. And I look back on it now and I'm sure they were because of my weight and my unhealthy lifestyle. But I paid the price for it, didn't I? Then I was lucky enough at like 38 and a half, I had Joe. So as I approached my 40s, was I prepared to give things up? Was I prepared to change? Was I prepared to look at being healthier? Nope. Because then I'd got a kid and everything he left I could finish. And my husband used to say to me things like, you know when Joe leaves 3/4 of his dinner because he was never a greedy child, why don't you put washing up liquid on it to stop you eating it? Why don't I just eat it? I mean, Joe's never been a sandwich eater, but I'd make him a little plate of really pretty sandwiches because I wanted them. He'd eat 1/4 or 1/2 of one. I'd polish the rest off. I'd made him enough for an adult. He was never a child who would clean his plate. He would eat as much as he wanted, then he'd stop. Well, I'd always put more on his plate than he should have been having in the first place because I could finish it. And still today, one of my favourite foods is bird's eye fish fingers. Let me go to Bill's, you know, the restaurant place. Let me go to Bill's and I'd order a fish finger sandwich today. Crazy. I don't go there. I choose not to because it's not a safe place for me. I know what my triggers are. I know how to avoid them today. I didn't then. So you get this kid, and I have to say, and I'm not saying it because he's standing behind the camera, he was no trouble as a child. No trouble at all. So I was lucky because I couldn't have coped with him if he was. But we still continued with the luxury lifestyle. We still ate out a lot. We still went on really good holidays. We tended to holiday in this country, but you know, Devon, Cornwall, places like that. We could stay where we wanted, we could eat what we wanted, we could do what we wanted. And I was not an active person. I was a sedentary lazy person. If I could send Joe to get it for me. Do you remember Joe used to go to the bar and buy, what were those drinks?
Snowballs.
Snowballs. I'd say go to the bar and order 3 snowballs. And it was quite funny, we were staying in a hotel in Devon when the manager came over to me one night and he said, I really apologise. The barman has been serving Joe with snowballs and he's been putting them on the room tab. Yeah, I know, I was the one who sent him to get them. But the stupid thing was, I grew up in a pub and I knew it wasn't legal for a child to buy alcoholic drinks. But we got away with it for about a week, didn't we, Joe? Stupid things like that, because I was too idle to walk up to the bar and buy them. I sent him. Oh, and while you're there, get 3 or 4 packets of crisps. Bad habits. I had such bad habits all the way through my 40s. still went back to Slimming World. I have been to more Slimming World groups in the Nottingham area than you can shake a stick at. Because I always thought it was a quick fix. I'll go, I'll follow it for 3 months, I'll see where I get, then I can stop going but still follow the plan. Never learned enough to do that, never had enough willingness to do that, never was teachable enough to do that, never had the heart to do that or a good enough why, and I still struggle with the why today. I just wasn't willing. I just didn't want to give up anything. I wanted a quick fix. Something Joe and I were talking about earlier is, does anybody remember the vibration plates that you used to be able to buy? And you stood on it and it vibrated you. Well, my friends and I went through a phase of thinking they were the easiest way to lose weight and get toned. Load of bollocks. Load of rubbish, a load of BS. Waste of money. I remember my friend Val buying me one for my birthday. It did nothing. If you want to lose weight and you want to get toned, then the day you join Slimming World, join a gym. And looking back, I wish I had done that. There's more to it than just what you eat. But having said that, once I passed 50 and kind of got real, by then, you know, Joe was, 16, 17, I think. And he was off doing his own thing as at college, and he was doing his own thing and living much of his own life. And, you know, then he learned to drive and it gave him freedom. And I didn't have to think all the time, I'm a mother, child first. I could think about, what do I need? And I became a bit wiser through age, I think. And I thought I was prepared to give things up. So for 2 or 3 years, I went and joined Slimming World, probably once a year, but nothing had changed in me. I still wanted that quick fix. I thought, and by this time I was probably 16, 17, 18 stone on occasions. I wanted a quick fix. I used to have this fantasy that you could go to sleep, wake up thin. I think I'd have to go into a coma for a year to achieve that. But I thought it was possible. I thought joining Slimming World was a quick fix. I never saw it as a permanent lifestyle. I saw it as a temporary measure to get me to shed a few stone, and then I'll start all over again. But starting all over again meant putting the weight back on. It never meant continuing with a healthy plan. So where are we now? I'm in my early 50s. Slimming World's still not working for me. So I took a drastic measure. I decided to have bariatric surgery, and I'm a great believer that if I've made a mess of something, I should put it right. So I had the option. They don't do bariatric surgery in Nottingham, but I could have gone to Derby to the Royal Infirmary and had a bariatric gastric band on the NHS. But my husband and I talked about it, and we decided I'd created this problem, I should fix it. So I wanted it doing in Nottingham. I didn't want the hassle of having to go to Derby for every appointment. So I decided to pay for it. And I still remember it was £6,921, but I could have had a gastric band for 12.5 grand. So I talked to a friend about it, a really dear friend, and she already had a gastric band. And we decided that wasn't the right thing for me. It was too drastic for what I needed, because I needed to change my eating habits. So I went with the gastric band, and I had it done on the 8th of March 2010, so 15 years ago. Fantastic surgeon in Beckingham, had it done at Park Hospital in Nottingham. Went in one day, came out 2 days later, and thought, this is the answer to all my prayers. This is really going to help me. And it did. I put weight on in the first year because I wasn't educated about what I should eat. They said to me, when you come out of hospital, have clear soup. I got home and I sent my husband to Asda to get me some hazelnut, because that was my passion at the time. And he's like, but you've got to have clear soup. And I said, I don't like clear soup, go and get me some hazelnut. And he did, bless him. But that was the start of my slippery slope. And I kept going back for my follow-up appointments. And Mr. Beckingham kept saying, can't understand it, you're not losing weight. Well, I'm doing it right. I'm doing what you tell me to do. So he tightened the band a bit, because the difference between, I don't know a lot about the sleeve, I don't know anything about the balloon, but the difference between a gastric band and a gastric bypass is a gastric band is reversible, a gastric bypass is permanent. So that was one of the things that scared me into having the band. So I have the band done, and I'm not losing weight, so he tightens the band. And then what started to happen? I couldn't eat fruit, I couldn't eat vegetables, I couldn't eat red meat. I just couldn't get it down. I just couldn't. So I started to lose weight because I was throwing up all the time. Joe will remember when we used to go out for a walk. Can you remember, Joe? And I'd have to keep stopping and finding a bush I could throw up behind.
Yeah, when it was too tight.
When it was too tight. It was hell. It was awful, because that made my stomach so small and so restricted. And for years, I mean years, I have struggled. And not now, because I haven't got the band fitted. Well, I've got the band fitted, but I've got it slacked off. But for years, I didn't eat any fruit, I couldn't eat vegetables, unless you would cook something like cauliflower and then puree it. I couldn't eat red meat, and I just remember that I did get my weight down. I got down to, like, I don't know, maybe 9.5 stone from, say, 16, 17 stone, because you had to lose weight before you had it fitted. And my husband said to me, if you can lose weight before you have it fitted, why can't you carry on losing weight? Don't work like that, I said. No, because I didn't want to work like that. But I was throwing up 10 times most days. And then we got to a place where I couldn't drink water, and I was getting dehydrated. And I remember ringing the private hospital and saying, I can't get water down, I've got a problem. And they said, the surgeon's on holiday, come a week on Monday. And it was like, what did I do for the best part of that week? I sipped water. It wasn't his fault I was having problems. The band was too tight. So then I decided I'm going to go back to Slimming World. I cannot live like this. So I rejoined Slimming World in 2015. And I had my band loosened, but not really slacked off, just loosened by probably 1.5 mils. And I only had a 10 mil band, so I didn't have the big band. I only needed the smaller one because I'm not a big person underneath all the wrapping. And it was really interesting because when he loosened it off, yes, there was things I could eat. I could eat cake, I could eat biscuits, I could eat chocolate, I could eat any kind of pudding, I could eat yoghurt, I could eat trifle. I'm not a big fan of trifle, but I could keep it down. And all these things, but I could only eat them in moderation. Couldn't eat vast quantities like I used to do. So I did start to lose some weight, but my nutritional levels were diabolical. I lived on crap. I could eat a packet of crisps. I could eat a slice of toast with 1/2 inch of Lurpak on it because it would slide through. But if you'd put a healthy meal in front of me, I couldn't eat the vegetables. If you'd put a bowl of fruit in front of me, I still couldn't eat the fruit. It was so odd. But I joined Slimming World as a vegetarian in 2015, and I started to lose weight because I had the restriction of the band. And I was still living on junk. I wasn't following the plan properly. I was still living on junk. And then one day I went back to see my surgeon and I said to him, look, slack it off, take all the, they put like, what's salt water called? What's the word for salt water?
Saline.
Saline. They put saline in the band. You have a port just below your breastbone, or some people have it just below their ribs, but mine's just below my breastbone. And they inject saline into it, which goes to the band. I said, take it all out. Give me 3 months. And I'll come back in 3 months, make me an appointment. And every time you go back, it's another 100 quid. I was lucky because he didn't charge me full price every time I went back. He was a very kind man. But he took all the filling out of my band. I said, give me 3 months. If I come back in 3 months' time and I haven't lost any weight, then we're going to have to fill it again and start again. I went back 3 months later and I'd lost 1.5 stone, and he was like, oh my God, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to Slimming World. I found a consultant who's got what I want. She's lost 7.5 stone just by following the plan. No exercise because she's got a bad back. And I'm not into exercising because I'm blind, so I can't go out on my own and do all these amazing body magic things. But I followed the plan to the letter. And he said to me then, he said, Jane, just keep doing what you're doing. And I have done since then. I've never had any saline put back in my band. I can eat fruit until it comes out my ears. I can eat any vegetable. I can eat red meat, but I often choose, I don't eat it. I choose not to. But I can eat chicken, I can eat fish, I can eat anything I want to do. But I don't eat off plan today because I don't want to go back there. Now the difference is, and I said this to Joe earlier, the biggest change I made and the biggest decision I ever made on Slimming World, and I believe in Slimming World, I really, truly believe in Slimming World. The biggest thing I did was I learned to say no to myself. Because I am naturally a volume eater. And I can eat volume as long as I eat the right foods. I am naturally, I think, a greedy person. My eyes are bigger than my belly. But if I'm eating the right foods, again, I can eat the volume of foods. What I can't do today, and I'm quite happy about, is I can't snack, because snacking to me is a trigger action. I know we all talk about having trigger foods, but snacking to me is a trigger action. So I avoid it like the plague. I don't need it. If I can't get from one meal to the next, Joan said something very wise in her comment on one of my latest videos. If I'm getting hungry when it's coming towards my dinner, I don't snack, I bring my dinner time forward a little bit. And I was like, wow, that is so wise. We have those options. But the old me never stopped snacking. I was a grazer. I ate from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. And it was not unusual for me to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and eat something. Oh, I can't sleep, I'll make a coffee, I'll have half a packet of digestives. 2 o'clock in the morning. Who the hell needs to do that? And that was all because snacking was a habit. So the first thing I did was kick the snacking out of my life. I don't need it, I don't want it. I can eat enough at my meal times that I don't think about snacking in between because I'm not hungry. I don't drink alcohol, only occasionally. That's not because alcohol is a problem on the plan. You can count it and it's fine. But the thing with me is, if I have alcohol, I don't know where my tipping point is, but it's very low. I only need a couple of alcoholic drinks and hey, I'll eat anything. My life in my 40s was very much about eating out with my friends. Once Joe was off at secondary school and everything, I reckon I used to eat out 5 days a week with different friends. And I look back on it now, and not only the amount of food I ate, but the choices I made on the menu were diabolical. I always chose the biggest thing on the menu, the biggest pudding on the menu, followed by coffee with vodka and cream on top, you know what I mean? Well, I don't know what they're called, I can't remember.
Floater.
A floater. And I'd have sugar in it, and I don't take sugar in coffee, but I'd have to have sugar in it to make the cream float. All those sort of habits were everyday habits for me. They weren't like, oh, some people will just eat out on their birthday and they might have a floater. No, I would have one of those 5 days a week when I ate out. All that double cream floating on the top with sugar and vodka. And before that, a huge dessert. And before that, a huge main course. Of course, having a gastric band with restrictions stopped all of that because I'd have to keep running to the toilet to throw up, and people started to notice. You know, you can eat a quarter of your meal and then you've got to go and throw it up. So that just leads to very bad habits. So moving on into my 60s, which is where I am now, what is different? Slimming World's not different. It's better because food optimizing just gives you such a simple thing to follow. You know, map your plate out, a third protein, a third free, a third speed. Nowadays, I know what I can eat. I know even down to something as simple as what causes me constipation, because in group every week somebody's got constipation, if not 3 of them. What causes me constipation? Brown rice, wholemeal pasta, too much fibre. Now, Slimming World tells me I need fibre, eat fibre. But because I've experienced this now for the best part of 350 days consecutively, I know what is too much fibre. I can manage it, I can engineer it, I can go to the loo every day. I know the amount of water I need to drink, and I know when too much fibre is too much. And I made a mistake last week, didn't I, Joe? One day I had whole grain, wholemeal brown rice with my lunch. Oh my God, the rest of that day and the following 2 days, I felt like I'd swallowed a brick. Nothing was moving and I felt so crap. Not doing that again. But that's for me. Everybody's digestion is different. I've never had IBS or any sort of digestive issues. But I do know that most of the ladies who sit in group and claim to be constipated, or gents for that matter, we don't have many men in our groups, but most of them, it's not a lack of anything. It's too much fibre. And if you're going to take on board a load of fibre, you need to take on board a load of water. And I mean proper water. I don't mean, you know, cordials and fizzy pops and gin and tonics like I'd like, whatever. I just mean water. We're lucky where we live, we have really good tap water. But all of these things have made a difference to the way I work the plan. And I will say, I can have 15 sins. And I do a lot of the time. I might get the odd day when I'll probably have 10 now. I might get a day when I have 11 and a half. But I am not going to cut right down to a place where I've got nowhere to go if I plateau. Because I need to be able to eat volume. I just love this plan. I'm never hungry. I'm never dissatisfied, because if I make a meal and I'm not enjoying it, I've bin it and make something else. Excuse me, I've been drinking coffee. I don't eat food I don't enjoy. I will say I love the food and I love the food I eat, and I eat the food I love. And I think one of the best things I can do for myself is to go through the books. If you can physically do this, I just don't do it mentally. But if you can physically do it, go through the books and highlight everything you love on the plan. And disregard the rest. You know, you could say, one of the things you mentioned on the plan earlier was venison. He likes venison. I don't.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to eat it every day.
No, but you used to eat it.
Yeah.
At least once a week. He's eating pigeon and God knows what from Marks and Spencer's. No, I'm very funny about meat and stuff like that. You'll never see me eating lettuce or any kind of leaves. I have an intolerance to spinach because of the oxalates. You have to feel your way around it and work out what makes you feel good, what gives you JOMO, what gives you the joy of missing out when you step on the scales. You don't want to be living your life with a fear of missing out. Like, if you want chips, do what Rufus said last night on the Losers Club. Start them off in the microwave, cook them from the inside, then put them in the air fryer, crisp them on the outside. If you want chips, they're available. But one of the things Joe and I firmly believe, after talking about it in depth, is when Slimming World say nothing is out of bounds, you can have anything. We don't agree with that. Because there's a lot of things you cannot eat. Like, if I wanted to eat chocolate, which I don't today, but if I wanted to eat chocolate, I could have a limited quantity. But chocolate to me is a trigger food, so I stay away from it. Chocolate is my alcohol. If I was an alcoholic, I'd have to choose to stay away from alcohol, so I can choose to stay away from chocolate. It's never done me any favours. You cannot eat anything you want on this plan. If somebody invites me out for a meal and they say, you know, it's so-and-so's birthday, we're going for an Italian. Find me something on a good Italian menu that fits within sins. I would have to come off plan to enjoy myself and eat the kind of Italian food that I like, which would probably be mushroom risotto of sorts. But I can choose to do that if I want to. There's nobody who says you can't have a meal off plan, you can't have a week off plan if you're going on holiday, you can't do any of these things. But for me today, it's not so much about the food. I mean, I can make a mushroom risotto at home and put a small bottle of wine in it, and I can make the whole thing for like 7 sins, which will make 3 or 4 portions, and I thoroughly enjoy it. But I know that if I wanted to go to a good Italian restaurant in my town, I can't eat their risotto and not come off plan. What do I choose to do today? I might say to a friend, I'll come to your house for a meal, or I might say, if it was a special enough occasion, okay, I'll come off plan for the one meal. The only problem with that is it's the behaviour with me that is the problem, more than it is the content of the meal. Because coming off plan for one meal leads to me thinking, well, it's Friday and I'm going to be off plan for my dinner tonight, so I might as well be off plan for my breakfast and my lunch. My mentality isn't straight when it comes to things like that. It's skewed. So what do I do today if somebody invites me out for a really good meal that is nothing like plan? I say no thank you, let's do something else. So, you know, you go out with the rest of our friends and you have that really good meal, and together we will do something else. And it works for me because my whole life does not revolve around food and behaviours that are all about food. When I look back over the years, I have been to some incredible restaurants. I've got good memories of it. I've been to some crap ones as well. But that was when my whole life was about eating, and eating the wrong things, and eating massive volumes of food. My husband's 6'4", 6'4.5". I could eat him under the table. I could eat 3 times as much as him, and I'm 5'2". Because he's not greedy. And my husband has this terrible habit, really terrible habit. He'll open a packet of crisps and eat half of them and then put them aside. He'll open a bar of chocolate and he'll have 2 squares and then put it in the fridge. He'll go out for a meal. I mean, luxury food. But do you think he ever cleans his plate? No. But my husband's tall and slim, and even today, you know, Joe buys him, when we do his shopping, Joe will buy him all the biscuits he really likes and things like that. My husband has a biscuit with a cuppa. I've never been able to do that. At least half a packet, if not the whole packet. Well, it's not the biscuit that's the problem, it's the behaviour. So I've learned to cut out those behaviours. We don't have biscuits in the house unless they're here because they're on the way to somebody else's house. But I know now what is wise for me to do and what is unwise for me to do. I know now what are my trigger foods. I know now, most importantly, how to say no to myself. Now, before I came back to YouTube in October, I had gained weight and gone up to 15 stone 6. COVID, the first year of it, wasn't a problem. Then my friend got really sick and I spent most of my time with her. Couldn't eat when I was there because she was poorly with cancer and everything. And then I'd say to Joe when he picked me up or when we came home, I need something, I need to stuff my face because I needed comfort. And I didn't know any other way of finding comfort back then. I do now. I know now what is comforting and what is just greedy for me. And in a very short space of time, I put on like 4.5 stone. But equally, since May last year, in 14 months, I've lost that 4.5 stone. And the jumper I'm wearing today, it was quite funny because I'd sorted out a load of stuff for Vinted. This jumper went in the pile. And I liked this jumper. I remember buying it about 8 or 9 years ago when I was at Target. I bought it from the White Company, but it went on the pile for vintage. And then I said to Joe the other day when I was putting some other stuff up on vintage, I like this jumper, I don't know that I want it to go. So I hung it back in my wardrobe, I'll think about it, it's a maybe. This morning it was much cooler, we'd been out to hospital 20 miles away, and it was a much cooler start when we left home at 7 o'clock this morning. Joe said to me when we came back, before we go out again, maybe you need to put a sweater on, rather than, I had a fleece and a top on. Maybe just put a sweater on, a thinner sweater. So I went in my wardrobe and the first thing I put my hand on was this jumper. And I thought, I'll try it. But I don't think it'll fit me because I reckon I weighed less than 10 stone the last time I wore this sweater. And I put it on and it fits. So it's not going to vintage. I got it back. That's a non-scale victory that has given me hope, because I reckon if you look back on my own videos, it's years since I wore this jumper. I never ever thought I'd get back into it. But 14 months following this plan, 100% and loving every single day of it, including my birthday, including my husband's birthday, it was my husband's birthday last week, including Joe's birthday, his 31st, including Christmas, including New Year, including Valentine's Day, including Easter. I've loved it. Now, the old me didn't need much to have an excuse, and I use the word excuse. I didn't need much to make an excuse, not a valid reason, an excuse, to celebrate anybody's birthday, and I could always find somebody who had one at least once a week, to comfort eat over every tiny little thing. My microwave went kaput a week ago. My microwave's a talking microwave, so you can't just replace it with a 50 quid one from Tesco or something. And I just said to Joe, I'll take it to the tip. Buy yourself one from Asda that you can use. I don't care if I can use it or not, it don't matter. So we did that, didn't we? Went to Asda and got one for like 75 quid or something. But the old me would have been like, yes, 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 a good excuse to eat. I was so sick. I was really sick around food. My habits were so sick around food. And I'm just so grateful that today, because I've eaten on plan for 430, 40, whatever days, that my reaction to food is so very different. This week we had to get the police to break into our friend's house because we couldn't rouse him and we thought he'd possibly passed away in his sleep or something. He hadn't, thank God. But we had to get the police to break in, so I had to dash into group, drop off the food for the taster, drop off a birthday present for somebody, drop off something else for somebody and fly out the door after stepping on the scales. Dash off to our friend's house, meet the police, deal with the issue, which took about 2 or 3 hours. But you know what? Not once did I think I need to eat over this. That was on Tuesday. I still haven't had that thought. That's what Slimming World has done for me. It's not just given me a healthy lifestyle and the right foods to eat, it's sorted my bloody head out. So I want to thank Lisa and Rufus. They talked a lot of sense on last night's Losers Club. And again, I'm going to reiterate what Lisa said. The only person who's lost the 5+ stone that she's lost is her. And the only person who's lost the 4.5 stone that I've lost is me. And back in the day, through my 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s, I was always looking for somebody else to do it for me. That's why I tried things like Cambridge. Quick fix, lipo trim, quick fix. That's why I could never do Manjaro, because I couldn't be trusted around it. That's why having a gastric band worked temporarily for me, but in the long term, it wasn't the answer, because it wasn't the quick fix. I was led to believe I was spending nearly £7,000 on it. I thought I could buy my weight loss. We all have to find what's right for us. There is no right way, there is no wrong way. As Lisa and Rufus said last night, there's just tools. find your tools before you try to find your why. Commit to your tools, follow through on your tools, but don't sit back and wait for somebody else to do it for you, because it will never happen, and before you know it you'll be 68 as well. And I look back and I say, I wish I'd done this 30 years ago. Couldn't do it 30 years ago. I wasn't teachable, didn't have the wherewithal, wouldn't listen, knew better than anybody else, and I wanted to buy a quick fix. Same with the exercise, but you can't. What was it we were saying this morning, Joe? If something's worth having, it's worth blooming working for.
Yeah.
And it is. This has been worth working for, because I feel like a new person. And I've been here before. I've been a Target member. I've been down to 8 stone 8. But you know, then, I don't think I was so nutritionally aware. And I know when I had my gastric band, I was not at all nutritionally aware. I looked ill. I remember a good friend of mine, a lady called Debbie, who lives locally, saying to my husband when she bumped into him in Asda one day, Richard, forgive me for asking this, but has Jane got cancer? And Richard went, no. And she said, she looks like she has. Are you sure? She's grey. She looks so ill. So Richard came over and he said to me, are you living under the, thought that you might have cancer and you don't go to the doctors? And I was like so offended. Look at me, I'm slim for the first time in my life. Yeah, but our friend Debbie, she says you look ill. Yeah, I did. I did look ill. I had no colour. I was grey pallor. I just wasn't healthy because I wasn't aware of good nutrition, and I am today. But first and foremost, and I'm going to say it once more, the best gift I've given myself is to learn how to say no to myself and to feel the joy of missing out. Anyway, that's enough. I've gone on for far too long, but thank you if you've listened to the end. And I'll see you at the weekend.